gentlemen, dude and dudettes, I'm Matt Burns, and let's just say you're listening to The Burning Truth, of course, but you already knew that, as you can tell from the intro, which is, I got to say, I still find it outstanding work from the amazing, talented people at Kayfabe Music. But once again, you might have already noticed that we are on another pre-recorded episode, and I am all by myself once again. No John Bloor this week. In case if anybody's wondering where is John Bloor, the reason being he isn't here is due to the same reason he wasn't here on the previous week. But as for details in regards to that, I will save that for when he makes his return to The Burning Truth. But I've got to say, big week for this week, but it's going to be crammed in such a short time frame. We've got quite a bit to discuss, but before we even get on to that, I need to get through to our usual audio disclaimer. The following Burning Truth episode may contain language, angles, and topics that may be unsuitable for younger listeners and certain people may find offensive. You have been warned, and from time to time there could be the odd certain swear word or, where the language goes a bit blue. Please understand if this does offend you. We do apologise, but it may slip out. And the following episode may contain strobe lighting effects to keep JB's one per listing. Well, his once a week listing. Right, and as of that is out the way, we'll get the usual statements out. The Burning Truth 100% wholeheartedly backs and supports the Black Lives Matter and, of course, the hashtag speaking out. Still to this moment, to this day, and forever will be. If anybody who has been affected massively by the Black Lives Matter, as in what the cause, the main body of it, of what is cause for this call out to occur, just always know that you always have a voice welcome at The Burning Truth. So if you are interested in voicing your opinions or wanting to have your say in the matter, understand we have airspace that is available for you anytime, just as long as there's no accusations, which we'll discuss that. But let's get on down to business, which is none other than, of course, wrestling. What a weekend we've had so far and got to come so far. Of course, we have got what has occurred during last night, early hours this morning for us, which would be none other than Impact Wrestling Slammiversary for 2020. Absolutely amazing. Multiple debuts and multiple returns. And unfortunately, I'm not going to cover that this week. In case you're wondering why, it's simply because, unfortunately, as much as I know what's gone on, I've not actually, viably seen it myself. And I want to be able to see before I'm actually able to discuss it as such in full details to get, I can say basically in regards to certain statements of them, certain returns and certain debuts, I can discuss how I feel about it. But it wouldn't be an honest depiction because simply I don't know exactly the contents of how they made their return or how they debuted as such. And I'd rather give a honest feedback. So I'm hopefully going to discuss that possibly next week. So who knows? We could save that for next week potentially, which should be massively interesting because that won't be the only show we'll be discussing a fallout for next week, which it would be none other than what we're going to be covering today, which is the predictions of WWE, the horror show at Extreme Rules. Which I've got to say, bit of a long-winded title. And some of the matches, I will say, very interesting to say and unique in their own way, but do feel as though WWE have backed themselves into a corner with one of the so-called one of the main events that is, the main matches to be determined. Still, even though there's been supposed rumors and speculation of what match it's going to be, it's going to be this, but we don't know. And WWE are going, that's been spoiled. But then, with some of the statements that Dolph Ziggler's been putting out, it's like, it's a bit unusual, seeing as we've actually got a match on there that we've never seen before on WWE television. Even though I think the idea of the match has already been done before somewhere else, maybe. Yeah. Anyway, let's just get down to it and get this pushed on with for it, which is the following match is a tables match for the WWE SmackDown Tag Team Championship, which is pitting the New Day, Big E and Kofi Kingston, the champs, versus Cesaro and Shinsuke Nakamura. And I have got to say, both myself and JB, because yes, I know exactly what you're saying. How can JB get involved in the predictions when he's not here? Luckily enough, I managed to get his predictions before I actually came on to be able to do this episode. And just to point out also, there is only 7 matches that we are covering. Any additional matches will not be included in the predictions as such, just to point out. And I will be going through them individually. We've already mentioned the first one. So in this one, I believe JB's gone for the New Day, who will be retaining the championships on the night. As for myself, I am actually going for something new and different and going to go with Cesaro and Shinsuke Nakamura, and the fact that we are going to have new WWE SmackDown Tag Team Champions. Moving on to the next match, which is a singles match for the WWE United States Championship, which is pitting Apollo Crews, the actual champion, versus MVP, also known as Montel Vontavious Porter. And in case anybody wants to know isn't this for 2 belts? Not necessarily, because the interesting thing about this is it's going to have a bit of a unique feel to it. And the odd thing about it is I'm actually conflicted with this one. Once minded, I am that conflicted with the whole idea that I've actually just switched one of my predictions I originally had written down to completely switch it on the fly. But anyway, let's digress and let's get down to it. We have actually got 2 versions of the WWE United States Championship. We've got Apollo Crews with the current United States Championship, and MVP with a brand new WWE United States Championship. And I will state, please, no matter who wins this match, go with the new belt. It looks amazing. And I've got to say, MVP bringing that. Thank you very much, MVP. And with that, for the predictions, I've gone for Apollo Crews to be still the WWE United States Champion, but to be more interested in the MVP version championship belt and change it over. Whereas my colleague has gone for MVP, and I believe I know why, because MVP is the one who's introducing the new championship, and it would be interesting to see him, especially with the whole Bobby Lashley thing. I feel as though it'd be much better to stay on Apollo Crews, because I feel as though we could get even more out of it. If Bobby Lashley, I think it'd be more interesting. MVP would be a good United States champion, but I feel as though as time has come up, he knows, and it'd be a good way to push Apollo Crews. But then straight after, you could then have someone, be very upset, who is currently going to be in the corner of MVP, who's going to be wanting a piece of Apollo Crews to then claim the United States Championship at a later date. I wonder who that could be. None other than Bobby Lashley. That would be amazing. But that's my point of view on that. But my colleague's gone for MVP because of Bobby Lashley being in the corner of him, and MVP has been showing some amazing standout work as well, especially with Bobby Lashley. And I wouldn't be. The odd thing about it is, I picked this Apollo Crews. I wouldn't be. I would be fine with either one of them winning, because I feel as though Apollo Crews hasn't had much of a show off, which he should do. And MVP had been putting in amazing work and made himself and Bobby Lashley relevant in such a way where it's like, I want to see them more. And it's absolutely interesting. But we digress and we need to move on. The next match is a match that has never been announced, which is Eye for an Eye match. Where have we heard that title subjection before? Oh, yes, of course, AEW. But I believe the stipulations is vastly different, because on AEW's Eye for an Eye match, it was, well, one of them is wearing an eye patch, the other one needs to wear an eye patch to make it more fair. So it's just a singles match with an eye patch on. Whereas in this one, the match can only be won when one competitor extracts an eye of their opponent. Jesus! Regardless of it, whoever is losing this match is taking some time out. And that is the reason why I believe both myself and JB are going for the fact that Seth Rollins is going to be claiming the victory here, especially seeing as there is rumours of Rey Mysterio with his contract being up, and basically he's actually wrestling with no contract. What a good way to sort of definitely take him off television and away from WWE, off the screen, with his eye being pulled out. And on top of that, what a way to get some serious villainous heat on Seth Rollins, especially as he's going through his stage right now as a absolute monster. But on the flip side, isn't Seth Rollins due to be a father soon? Ooh, that could come into play. But we've both gone for Rey Mysterio either way. And the next match is a Wyatt Swamp fight, which is pitting Braun Strowman, the WWE Universal Champion, against none other than Bray Wyatt. And so far, it looks like it's the Eater of Worlds, but here's the thing. Any of them could appear at any time. And that is going to be so interesting. And however, you might have just noticed something there in regards to what I just mentioned. And I believe this is where my prediction is going to come into play. Now, my colleague has gone for Braun Strowman to get the victory, dominate, to possibly to beat Bray Wyatt, but then that would bring an end to that feud. Myself, I feel as though Bray Wyatt's going to get the win and come out on top for the feud to continue and lead up to SummerSlam for them to have the Universal Championship match. Because, ladies and gentlemen, you might have just actually noticed the fact that the actual championship belt, the actual championship, is not on the line. Meaning, Braun Strowman can actually effectively lose here and him not to lose the championship. Ooh, it's anyone's ballpark. The next match is a singles match for the WWE SmackDown Women's Championship, pitting the current WWE SmackDown Women's Champion, Bayley, versus Nikki Cross. And I've got to say, this is going to be absolutely massively interesting. However, I feel as though, Bayley hasn't finished her story yet. Not yet. Not quite yet. And there's going to be more leading up to it. But for me, I'm going to stick with Bayley. My colleague is going for Bayley. And it's going to be an absolutely interesting match. Now, the next match is a singles match for the WWE Raw Women's Championship, which is pitting the WWE Raw Women's Champion, Asuka, versus the Boss, Sasha Banks. And this is where both myself and my colleague differ. My colleague has gone for Sasha Banks and thinking that Bayley and Sasha Banks is going to be running dominant on both Raw and SmackDown, showing that they are the best women on both brands, especially seeing as they are both the WWE Women's Tag Team Champions as well, which will be an interesting dynamic. But for myself, I think it'll be even more interesting if in this match, somehow, Bayley goes for, Sasha Banks helps Bayley in her match, but when Bayley goes for help Sasha, she ends up costing in the match, and Bayley's like, don't worry, we get another chance. And Sasha's like, really? I saved your match, you cost mine? And that sort of builds, simmers that hatred, that build-up, for a future turn from Sasha Banks to turn on Bayley and aim for her championship, which will lead to the infamous Sasha Banks versus Bayley feud, which we've all been asking for and been dying to see for how long? And what a great way to do it at SummerSlam. Need I say more? And the last match that we're going to be covering is none other a match that is, still to be determined match for the WWE Championship, which is pitting the current WWE Champion, Drew McIntyre, versus Dolph Ziggler. Now, this match, I'm going to say, is going to be interesting in the fact of how it's being hyped, how much it's been pushed. Are we going to actually be having a unique matchup with Dolph saying, it's going to be a never-seen-before match, never been seen before? Yet there's been speculation that it's going to be a TLC match. Dolph, we've seen them before, but what the hell? Either way, be an absolutely interesting match, but it's still a match that we've never seen before because it's Drew McIntyre versus Dolph Ziggler in a TLC match, which would still be an absolute barn burner and absolutely, throw it out the park and still be amazing. However, even though we've got The Rock in Dolph Ziggler corner saying, can't wait to see that happen, blah, 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 you got Drew McIntyre saying, yeah, sorry, Rock, it doesn't matter what your opinions think on the situation, he is going to pretty much claim all Dolph Ziggler's head clean off, which would be absolutely interesting. But at the same time, I feel as though if they take it off him now, it could possibly... I just want to avoid the rumour corner that we mentioned last week. If it's going to be done now, it needs to be done in such a way that Drew can still have a rematch down the road for when everyone's back at a later date, and it should prove massively interesting. If they don't, then this match needs to be brought, pretty much all over the place and lead up to another match. But I hope that me rumour corner from last week doesn't come into play, which is why, oddly enough, as much as Dolph Ziggler would be, he seems to be setting up Drew in an interesting way of saying he's using his anger against him, but I feel as though Drew McIntyre is going to center himself and pretty much claim more Ziggler's head off, because Dolph has always been amazing at making his opponent look amazing, especially his finishers. So with that, both myself and JB have gone for Drew McIntyre. And in case if anybody's wondering, yes, there is a few similarities, but there is the fact of, out of the actual matches, we have got 4 matches that are going to be vastly different. So there is a possibility of a tie happening, but will it happen? We don't know. But we'll have to wait and see, because effectively the only matches that are going to be interesting for myself and JB is going to be the New Day versus Cesaro and Shinsuke Nakamura, the Apollo versus MVP, the Swamp Fight match between Braun Strowman and Bray Wyatt, and of course the singles match for the WWE Women's Championship, Asuka versus Sasha Banks, as all the rest of them will be basically the same results as what we've already predicted. But anyway, ladies and gentlemen, that is all for this week. I know it's a short week this week, but due to time constraints and being vastly busy, I thought I'd at least get the predictions out, and that is going to be a wrap-up for the news for this week. So with that, I'm going to jump straight on to what we're going to be covering next week, which is more likely going to be the fallout of the WWE Horror Show Extreme Rules. And of course, we could potentially discuss some of the interest, the fallout of Impact Wrestling Slammiversary 2020. But whether we've seen it or if we have seen it, we'll cover it. If not, we'll most likely be not covering it. But I want to if I'm going to be covering it, I want to make sure I've seen it first. But that is all going to be it for this week for the news and for next week. But so we'll now move on to the plugs, which is none other. We recommend you all to check out UKWA, also known as UK Wrestling Alliance. We also want you to check out for photography needs. Check out Tony Knox, Jessica Servo Photography, Kerry Swift Photography, as they do absolutely outstanding work and can make you look absolutely amazing, be it either, professionally, just in an outfit posing, or if it's an action photo, they do absolutely amazing work. For all your videography needs, highly recommend BA Productions, SW Video, as they do absolutely amazing work. Of course, we also always recommend you check out charitable organisations like Changes for Health and Wellbeing, Changes Recovery Radio, Mind, Messy for Mind, Donna Louise Hospice Care for Children and Young People, and of course Cancer Research UK. The information that they do provide on their websites could prove massively useful either for yourself or someone else. You never know. We of course also recommend you check out the lighter side of professional wrestling by checking out Botchamania, WrestleCraft, OSW Review. You're welcome, Matthew. You're welcome, RD Reynolds. And of course, you're welcome, OSW Review lads. And we also highly recommend you check out some of our fellow broadcast and podcast shows by checking out Pull or Pass Radio Show, which is hosted by none other than Magic Mark Adams. Also, Don't Say the C Word, absolutely amazing. We of course also recommend you check out We the Independents. That's with an IE, not a Y. Absolutely amazing. We of course also always recommend you check out Think Wrestling, hosted by none other than Tom Baker, and we're not on about the Doctor Who actor either. And of course we also recommend you check out Train Pop Culture. I believe I had stated that it was done on Anchor or many other stuff, but definitely check them out on Spotify, as it's absolutely interesting. We of course also recommend you highly recommend you check out Hatred Theory if you've got some hatred building up, as they were absolutely hysterical. Highly recommend them. We of course also always recommend you check out Kayfabe Music, as they do absolutely amazing entrance music, and I believe that they have been making statements that they could be doing entrance videos as well in future. Who knows? So they're actually expanding out. We also of course also recommend you check out Turnbuckle TV, which is 40 plus companies underneath there for just $3.99. That's almost £1 a week to watch that content, which is, yes, we know that it's currently at a standstill for wrestling shows at this moment in time, but I do recommend you check it out because they've always got some broadcasts on there popping up all the time, and they're always ready to build up new content on there, ready for when, they've always got content built coming on somehow, either in audio form or video form, but they absolutely do amazing work. We always recommend you check out your local wrestling, promotions. Just case in point, Future Championship Wrestling, United Wrestling, Pro Wrestling for You, Future Shock Wrestling, Academy Pro Wrestling, Fallen Star Wrestling, Venom Wrestling Federation, Slam Wrestling, Wolfen Pro Wrestling, and many others. If there's any that I've missed off, I do apologise. But just in case if I have missed them off, you can always find them on a wrestling app, which is absolutely free, by checking out Babyface Wrestling app, where you can search all your local promotions. And of course, follow some of your favourite wrestlers and promotions on there as such. It's absolutely amazing. We of course also recommend you check out the Burning Truth website, which is www.theburningtruthuk.com, and you know what's on there, but let me just point out, please understand that external links we cannot be held responsible for, as we cannot control external sources. And of course, check out our social media, as we are on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, Instagram, and of course you can listen to past episodes of us either on the Burning Truth website, Spreaker, iTunes, Spotify, Spotify, Google Podcasts, Deezer, and other external sources. Basically, wherever you can listen to your podcast or broadcasts. And that's going to be a wrap up for this week. As usual, I'm going to say a mental health message out to right now, which is, I've noticed on Twitter that there's a lot of people going back and forth, throwing a bit of shade to each other. Let's just take this. If you can be anything, I highly, highly ask you all to be one thing. Be kind. Please be kind. Because if you can be that, then I will just state, if there is anything that you can be, always be kind. And with that message, I'm going to also state it is, of course, okay to be not okay. Asking for help is never a weakness, and you could usually always find out you've got more, people caring for you much more, than you ever realize. And of course, always never compare your behind the scenes to other people's greatest hits, quoted by Tom Campbell from Cultaholic. And of course, I've always make yourself a priority once in a while. It's not selfish, it's necessary. And that is some words I've been following recently myself, because I've actually been making sure to take time off myself as well. And as you might know, JB is currently doing that at this moment in time, because him having the time off isn't selfish, it is necessary. But with that is it for this week. I hope you all stay well, stay safe, and hopefully catch you on the next episode. I, of course, always recommend you check out your local professional wrestling companies on social media. Reach out to some family members, friends, or anybody you haven't spoken to in a while, be it either through Messenger or on a phone. You never know. You could actually make their day and actually help it improve it. And until next week, when we are back to our regular schedule program, I'll hopefully see you all next week. But until then, I hope you all stay well, stay safe. It's been emotional. I'll catch you later.